Hi, I'm Peter Russo for 101 Small Business Mastermind, and with me I have today, say good morning, Dick.
Good morning, Dick.
And say good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Dick.
And let's get started, I think. I have a noise source out here. I don't know what they're doing. But first off, I want to share something. I want to share my desktop. And I'm going to right here. So what you should be seeing right now is a Word document.
Yeah, see it.
Okay, these are the 7 things you don't want to do on social media. I was talking to a client earlier this week and telling them about, how social media drives traffic into your website. And, the chapter and verse. Well, here you go. These are things you don't want to put out in social media because that came up. Oh, what do you want to do? What don't you want to do? Well, so I went out to see if I could find something good for them. And here I ran into this. Former Chipotle employee who discussed his wages on a tweet got fired. Sued Chipotle and won. Now, it turns out this guy, apparently when they were doing their comeback from the food poisoning stuff, they were giving free food out, but the wages were like only $8.50 an hour for the crew, and he was bitching about that. Chipotle saw that, pulled him in, said, "Hey, you got to read this fine print on our social media policy," and they fired him. And he went ahead and sued for wrongful termination and won. Okay, and basically the food court found in favor of Kennedy and stated that Chipotle's social media violated federal labor law and ordered the casual dining restaurant chain to rehire Kennedy and pay him his lost wages. The court case victor, who now has a job with American Airlines, has no plans in returning to Chipotle and says he will accept his lost wages in the form of food vouchers. But if you don't think social media has an impact, that wouldn't happen, okay? Just jump in if you want to talk about any of these things. I'll go through these pretty quickly. The Yelp employee posted an article on Medium, which is another social media, about her low pay. And so as soon as they saw it, Jane, she got paid her, let me see, she said that her paycheck was so small it took 80% of her paycheck to pay her rent. And it says Jane won't be getting any more Yelp paychecks in the future. Promptly after posting on Medium, she was informed by Yelp's HR department that her actions violates the terms of conduct and was canned. Unsurprisingly, she took the social media this time, posting a tweet to share the news with her followers.
So what's the difference between the Chipotle one and the Yelp one in terms of conduct?
Nothing.
One stood up and one didn't, I guess.
That's about correct. And part of the business part of this, when you're working with HR professionals and social media policies, you have to make sure you're not violating their First Amendment rights of free speech. Okay, so they can run a headlong foul into that in the federal way. Here's a publicist who tweeted a joke about getting AIDS before taking off on a flight to Africa. The senior director of communications at a media company, she should have known better at that, which owns Tender and the Daily Beast, big groups, was boarding a flight to South Africa when she tweeted, "I'm going to Africa. I hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding. I'm white."
I remember
She was fired before her plane landed.
Yes. Stealing my thunder, Frank.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
she didn't get on the ground when she found out she was fired. If I could do that, I'm going to do it on a twin. You watch out now, Frank.
That's a good point.
Live by the sword, you die by the sword. So, and this one is really bizarre too. The comedian who tweeted jokes about the tsunami in Japan, of all the things to make jokes about, right? But the comedian is fairly famous. His name is Gilbert Gottfried, and was once the voice of Aflac Duck, the Aflac Duck, right? However, following a series of flippant jokes about the 2011 tsunami in Japan that killed over 3,000 people, I think it was much more than that, his distinctive voice wasn't enough to save him. His tweets included the following: "Japan called me. They said maybe those jokes are a hit in the U.S., but over here, they're all sinking." And another one read, Japan is really advanced. They don't go to the beach. The beach comes to them. God. Oh, my Lord.
That's funny. No, that's funny.
It is certainly humorous on a very dark subject, however.
Right.
Less than an hour after posting tweets, Gottfried was relieved of his duck duties. Within an hour. That's amazing, isn't it? Does social media have an impact or what, you know? Here's a former MLB pitcher who drunkenly tweeted racial offensive comments during a game. Beware of drunk tweeting. In 2010, I won't put his name out there, a former MLB pitcher who went on to work as a Dallas radio producer for the sports broadcast, attended an NBA match and the San Antonio Spurs beat the Dallas Mavericks. After the game, this guy tweeted, "Congratulations to all the dirty Mexicans in San Antonio." Wow. What a stupid thing to say, huh? While he was reportedly drunk when he posted that, that wasn't good enough excuse for the employer. He soon after lost his job, and very well should have.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and here's we only have 2 more to go here. A recent college graduate tweeted on how much she hated her new job. I don't know what she graduated from, but it wasn't the school of hard knocks, that's for sure. Bragging about a job offer on Twitter and insulting the company that offered you said job is not a smart move. This person, 22-year-old, recently with a degree in information management, found out the hard way. After being offered a position from California tech company Cisco in 2009, this person tweeted, "Cisco just offered me a job. Now I have to weigh the utility of a fat paycheck against the daily commute to San Jose and hating the work." Her tweet elicited her huge response on Twitter, including from Cisco associate who responded he'd be happy to pass her sentiments to HR. Suffice it to say, her job was discontinued, disappeared. Her job offer disappeared.
What an idiot.
You know, but yes, and these are examples of idiots that social media really can put out stuff quickly, and we should use that as an advantage for us in our business, which is what the whole lesson is. 2012 Taco Bell employee blah blah of Fort Wayne, Indiana, tweeted a photo of himself urinating on a plate of nachos. He later claimed he never served the dish. Well, I hope not. His tweet elicited the expected outrage, and the infamous hacker group Anonymous, yes, the one that claimed to be behind the Ashley Madison hack scandal, got involved and released a YouTube video containing this person's personal information. Soon after, he was let go from Taco Bell in what was probably a wise decision. He also deleted his Twitter account.
That's 2 Taco Bell employees lately that have done stupid things.
Yeah, and I like Taco Bell, you know.
Remember the other one, the drunk guy that punched out the Uber driver? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there was another one. There was another one showing spitting in taco shells and stuff.
Ooh,
you know,
really?
to serve them. And so anyway, the stupid stuff. But and the last one was it goes all the way to the entertainment world. When this person who was an extra on the now canceled Fox show Glee tweeted out who was crowned prom queen and king in the not yet aired episode in 2011, the co-creator responded by saying, "I hope you're qualified to do something else and work in entertainment. Who are you going to spoil the talented people that spent all those months to create?" So they spend all those months creating this wonderful thing, and this extra tweets it out and spoils it for everybody. So
right.
That's my show and tell on social media, what to do, what not to do. And so, as we all know, social media is an integral part of our online digital properties. These are things not to do, but it does work. So there you go. Any questions on that?
Well, I've always had a policy. Especially if I'm responding to something in anger or whatever, I don't send it out to the next day. You know?
I wrote those yesterday.
Yeah. Some of those people should have just said, "Well, let me see if it's a good idea tomorrow morning, then I'll send it out."
Right.
You know?
I'm so upset with the people who make my plastic defenders, as you all know, that and oh man, It is the classic example of the worst customer service I have ever witnessed in my life. And it just galls me to have to work with them, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, let's see what we got here. There you go, Frank.
There's the sound of joy and peace throughout the world.
What's it going to be this week, Frank? Who the heck is it?
It's a twin. It's a twin this week in the news. This week's twin headline is, hey, Rossa Reeves, thank you for the small business lesson. And the question is?
Who is Rossa Reeves?
Glad you asked. Rossa was born in 1910.
Oh, he or she's old.
Yeah, well, and no longer
And
with
dead.
it.
Yes.
And dead. In Virginia to a Methodist preacher. So, you know, he came from a strict background. He attended the University of Virginia. Remember, his father was a Methodist preacher until he was expelled from school for getting drunk and then taking his friend's car and crashing it. And this is during the Prohibition era. Okay.
Ooh.
But luckily, Rosser had just won a $100 prize. Now, this is about 1928 or so. As a prize for a statewide chemistry contest. And his competition, the other students wrote some chemical formula for this contest. Rosser knew nothing about chemistry because he spent most of his time drinking, dancing, and gambling. Decided to enter anyway. Instead of coming up with a unique formula, he wrote an essay called Better Living Through Chemistry. And he won. And he won. By the way, that phrase would make him lots and lots of money. Okay. So Ross took $100 because he got thrown out of school, and he moved to Virginia, Richmond, and he was hired by a new bank that says, hey, we want young, bright, young people. So they hired contest winners. Well, Ross wasn't a good student. He was hired as an accountant, and the bank says, man, you are really terrible as an accountant, but you have a good knack for words. So they hired him to write some ads for the bank. They did. And that was the turning point of his Rossa Reeves and how he left his mark. Rossa Reeves is since deceased. I think it was 84. He's one of the most famous advertising executives from the middle of the 28th century. He has 3 claims to fame. Number 1, he coined the term USP, unique selling proposition. He said that any product or service in the marketplace, you have to specify what's different so you can win against your competitors. Wow. I mean, we take that now as a standard.
Right.
Ross Reeves came up with that. He was the first ad man to produce TV spots for a presidential campaign. It was Dwight David Eisenhower, and he created this term, I like Ike.
I saw that on TV.
Right. Yeah, that was him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the one that coined that phrase. But
Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington. We don't want John
or Dean
or Harry, let's do that big job right. Let's get in step with the guy that's hep, get in step with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington. We got to get where we are going, travel day and night for president. Let Adelaide go the other way, we'll all go with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington, we'll take Ike to Washington.
Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country.
Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president.
what people talk about him most is he was the main character in one of the most famous stories in advertising, and this is my twin. And here is that story. Ad executives, back then and maybe even so today, they're not the most generous people in the earth, in the world. They always help themselves. That's what they get paid to do. But they really help the little people. And Rosser and one of his co-workers were having lunch in Central Park. Now, remember, this is 1930s, 1940s. And after completing their lunch and business conversation, they were walking back to to their Madison Avenue office. And as they were walking, Rosser stopped dead in his tracks. And he stared at a cardboard sign held by a man in a tattered piece of cloth. And the cloth seemed to be been old and abused. It was held together, as Rosser calls, by a hope and a prayer. Beneath this dirty black cloth was a very frail body, and the body belonged to a beggar. And the beggar held out his cup. He was looking for donations. The cup shook in the old man's hand, and as Rosser said, it emitted the most pitiful of sounds, because there was only one coin in his cup. It was a quarter. And the man was there looking for, I guess, his next meal. Wait a minute. You just told me advertising executives don't care. Was he feeling pity? No. Remember, Rosser was only into himself. Rosser was not at all interested in the beggar or even his empty cup. What captured Rosser's attention was a 3-word sign that the beggar was holding up. And it read these 3 words: I am blind. The gentleman was blind. Okay. Ross's friend came up to him and said, what are you looking at? And Rosser says, why do you think no one is giving this man any money in the middle of Central Park? And his friend says, well, they're just too busy. Don't worry about it. And Rosser said, yeah. He says, they're always busy. But that hasn't stopped people in the past. People are too busy to buy our products, but they do. People are too busy to vote, but they vote. Plus, this blind man is more deserving than all those idiots that get our help. And a friend says, well, then maybe he just got here. That's why he only has 25 cents in his cup. Rosser said, okay. He said, he went to the blind beggar and he said, how long have you been sitting here? And the beggar replied, well, I slept here last night. I woke up early, so I've been here just about all day. Remember, it was lunchtime. And Rosser said, well, this just won't do, in his kind of voice. The beggar got excited. He says, man, and he held out the cup for Rosser to donate. But Rosser didn't put any money in the guy's cup. He turned away from the beggar and faced his friend and says, do you have a pen? And the friend says, yes. He said, I'm going to take this man on as our client, and I'm going to dramatically increase his earning with just 4 words. Rosser turned back to the beggar and said, sir, treat him with respect. He says, you're not doing very well here. He says, my name is Rosser Reeves. He says, and it's my job to persuade people to open their wallets and buy the goods of my clients. He says, I'd like you to be my client. And I promise you, with 4 little words, I'll bring you enormous revenue. Remember, Rosser is into himself. He says, but I'm going to charge you. It will cost you 1 quarter, which is all the man had in his cup. What do you say? What could the beggar say? He put his hand in his cup, took out his only quarter, and gave it to Rosser. Rosser took the beggar's sign and took it to a bench where he added 4 words to that sign. Rosser and his friend gave it back to the client, and then Rosser and his friend stood aside to see what kind of results they would get. The first man that passed by was almost running, like a little jog. He had no intention of stopping his workout to help some bum, and the guy was a bum, but he stopped as if he hit a wall. The man looked at the sign and stopped immediately and dropped a coin into the beggar's cup. Okay. Next came a woman in a business suit. She glanced at the sign, turned around and looked at the trees and the birds, pulled out a $1 bill and placed it in the beggar's cup. And person after person that walked by the blind beggar, and he received, it's called a deluge of coins and bills until his cup was overflowing. What was even more amazing is not that the people stopped after reading the modified sign that Rosser did to donate money to the beggar. He also stopped and had a little chat with the blind man and described the beautiful woman walking by and the squirrels and the birds and the flowers blooming. Ross's work was done. He headed back to his Madison Avenue office, proud that he did what he knew he could do. His friend was amazed and asked Rosser, "How did you know that would work?" And here's Ross's response: "Contrast, contrast, contrast, my friend. Those people are always in their own little heads, and aren't we all?" He said, "It is our job as advertising people to help them see what we want them to see." I added 4 little words to that sign that would starkly contrast their words, their world, the people walking by, to that of the blind man's world. They had no means to empathize because his world was just too connected, too unreal to their own. But with the right 4 words, in this case 4 words, you can make people see whatever you want them to see. And gentlemen, that is my twin. Oh, wait a minute. What were those 4 words?
Wait a minute. I got robbed.
Okay. What 4 words did Rosser add? And I love this. The sign originally read, maybe had 3 words, it says, "I am blind." Here are the 4 words that Rosser added to the beginning. It is springtime and. So then the sign then read, "It is springtime and I am blind." The Rosser modified sign moved the people in Central Park to empathize with the beggar by starkly comparing their reality with his. They said, "Wow, I'm enjoying this springtime. Here's a man who is blind." He says, all of a sudden, they could relate their world to his world, where before they couldn't. They could appreciate springtime, and it made people that. Now, there are other two things that Rosser is also famous for. Again, the better living through chemistry, he used that for one of his clients called DuPont Chemicals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But he also came up with the Eminem slogan: "They melt in your mouth and not in your hand."
Which hand has the M&M's chocolate candy? Not this hand. That's ordinary chocolate candy. It's melted. But this one, there's no chocolate mess. Because M&M's milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Now there are 2 exciting candies to choose from. The ever-popular M&M's plain chocolate candies and the new M&M's peanut chocolate candies.
I'm one of the M&M's plain chocolate candies. Solid milk chocolate inside and a colorful sugar shell outside. And I'm a delicious peanut. But look what happens to me. First I'm drenched in creamy milk chocolate, then covered with a crisp, thin sugar shell. Look for this M on each piece.
Try M&M's chocolate candies with peanuts or plain. Remember, M&M's milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
So the small business lesson that I came out of, by the way, and I love this story, that I came up with, when we talk about what we do, we must also answer this question as we're talking. As compared to what? As compared to what? Dick, I'm looking at you. He's talking about Legal Shield as compared to not, and I know you do this, as on your flip, on your as compared to not having Legal Shield.
Right.
Peter, the main things you do on your websites as compared to not having a good website. In my case, what I'm doing with this project, as opposed to not having a program to attract people. So contrast, to quote Rosser Reeves, contrast, contrast, contrast.
I have more protection than you, Frank.
Yes, you do.
Even though this is the right one.
Right,
Still have
right.
more protection.
Anyway, so that's my twin about Mr. Rosser Reeves.
Very cool.
That was very good.
I don't know what I was watching, but it was famous advertising jingles, I think. And the I Like Ike came on.
Oh.
And they played I think I can probably find that chunk of video too, so I may have an example for you. And the better living through chemistry was always coined in my era with doing drugs.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Through chemistry.
There you go. But you know, but again, going back to the lesson, how many? Again, we see it all the time, and we hear when we go to networking events. I do this, and I do this, and my company does this.
Yeah.
As compared to what? Give me something to compare it by, right? I'm Steve Jobs. Again, you know how I feel about Steve Jobs. He compared the iPhone to the flip phone. As compared to what?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the flip phone. Nobody wanted a flip phone, right? Because they compared to what the new thing was to what the old thing was, and Ross recently came up with the USP. I thought that was pretty cool. He was so far ahead of his time, and he was a drunk who got thrown out of school because he was drunk, thrown out of college.
Yeah, I think the real power is he did it in 4 words.
Wow, there you go, 4 words.
Yeah.
And all the words except the third word was 1 syllable.
Yeah.
I am spring. No, it is springtime, and that was it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive. An impressive gentleman.
I think it is. Yeah.
All right. Dick, you have some entrepreneurial stuff for us.
Yes, I have a video if you could
Oh,
show that.
I think I can, actually.
I remember us talking about that.
I got to get up here and do something.
Saying that, Peter was thinking of 4 words.
Yeah.
I
This
was.
video is about famous failures.
Good. But wait. I didn't do it right. Hang on. I got to click this stuff down here, computer sound and optimize. And
It just, when I watched this video, it really hit me.
okay.
After being cut from his high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. He wasn't able to speak until he was almost 4 years old, and his teachers said he would never amount to much. Was demoted from her job as a news anchor because she wasn't fit for television. Fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no original ideas. At age 11, he was cut from his team after being diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency, which made him smaller in stature than most kids his age. At 30 years old, he was left devastated and depressed after being unceremoniously removed from the company he started. A high school dropout whose personal struggles with drugs and poverty culminated in an unsuccessful suicide attempt. A teacher told him he was too stupid to learn anything and that he should go into a field where he might succeed by virtue of his pleasant personality. Rejected by Decca Recording Studios, who said, "We don't like their sound. They have no future in show business." His first book was rejected by 27 publishers. His fiancée died, failed in business, had a nervous breakdown, and was defeated in 8 elections. If you've never failed, you've never tried anything new.
Very cool.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, I watched that. It was on Facebook, and I watched it. And I watched it 2 or 3 times because it really struck me. When you look at those people, there's 11 highly successful people that, and you might even say they're best in class, that were told very, very strongly they were going to fail. And it goes back to 1800s to present day. So the thing I asked myself was, what was the common denominator among all these people? You had athletes, you had actors, you had musicians, authors, inventors, all types of different people. So what was there a common denominator? I came up with one, and that is mental strength, mental toughness, the ability to not crumble when someone says you're too stupid to learn, or you're not good enough to be on my team, or you're too fat to be on TV, or whatever, all those things that were said to those people. So I really think that mental strength is a key to it. And, with mental strength, you're able to keep yourself motivated. When things are going bad, you're still able to get up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, I can do it. When you're mentally tough, you help tune out unhelpful advice. We all get it. We all get the people that try to tell you what you're doing wrong, why you shouldn't be doing it, your MMLs, the Ponzi scheme, and all these other things. It allows you to work yourself through it and provides you the courage to face your fears. And we all have them. I don't care how confident we are at all. We all have them. And you have to go, hey, face your fears, hit them head on. I think I talked about a couple weeks ago. If you don't like public speaking, go to Toastmasters and become a public speaker. Those types of things. It allows you to bounce back from your failures. And we have those all the time. Look at those 11 people. I mean, some of those comments were devastating, and they just bounced back and did it. You'll learn from your mistakes. When you're mentally tough, you'll sit down and you'll do a true evaluation of what am I doing right, what am I doing wrong, and how do I get better? And it helps you regulate your emotions. Probably one of the key things in being a successful entrepreneur, a small business owner is controlling your emotions when, trying to stay even keel. We're never, we have our highs and our lows, and we can't react to them. We have to try to keep an even keel type of thing. There's always going to be obstacles and challenges that threaten to derail your road to success. Building mental strength will help you develop the resilience to life's inevitable obstacles so you can overcome them. And I think these people have shown that, and I'm sure there's probably another 100 examples of very successful people that had similar things. So what are some of the things you should look for when you're trying to define your mental toughness? One of them is confidence. Do you believe in yourself and your abilities? Can you effectively navigate conflict and challenges? You have to be confident, not cocky, not overbearing, but confident. Quiet confidence is what I like to think, that you have the inner confidence that you're going to be successful, and you'll take care of the roadblocks along the way. You challenge yourself. You thrive in environments that constantly change or present new opportunities for learning or growth. This is one that I've experienced over the last 2 or 3 years, since I met Peter and Frank and all. I realized that this world we're living in is constantly changing at a much faster pace than it did, say, when I was in business. In business, it was about every 18 months you'd get, new evolution of technology, faster processors, and about every 18 months. Here, it's about every 18 days. There's something new that you have to look at, and you have to know what challenges to accept. Control. Do you feel you have control over your life and the power to shape your destiny? This is a key one. And it's one that I sometimes think that I struggle with, the control over my life. Sometimes I let too many outside noises interfere with my day-to-day routine. But you have to take control over your life day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. So it's really important. And commitment. Are you committed? Are you committed to achieving your outcomes? You set the goals. If you're a small business person, you set the goals for your company. If you're a home-based person, you set the goals for yourself. Are you committed to them? And if you review them, you take action when you haven't fulfilled your goals, or do you just roll along and let the day go and whatever comes, comes? I think these are important things, and I really found that video to be motivating in a very unique way, to me at least. It was. I guess I watched it maybe 2 or 3 times in a row, and it really intrigued me. And I think the common denominator of this group of people was their mental toughness, But, you cut Michael Jordan from the high school basketball. That one I knew. You cut him from the high school basketball team, and he turns out to be the best basketball player ever. The other 10, I didn't know. I didn't know Oprah Winfrey. Don't shake your hand, friend.
You saw that, okay.
Yeah, I saw you Celtics. I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
I tried
right.
to go in the background, but you caught it.
That's right. The other 10, I wasn't aware that Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television, or that Einstein was too stupid to do anything. That's really amazing. So I found it interesting. Hope everybody's watching this did and can take something out of it. So that's my segment for today.
All right. I knew the Abraham Lincoln one too.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, he also was a failed surveyor. That's how he ended up going to law school.
Yeah.
And then he had a much failed law business as well, But so yeah, he was certainly up against the rock and a hard place there.
Yeah.
Turned out.
Again, thank you. That was a great video, by the way. That was really, really good. The thing that hit me though was the last slide.
Yeah.
The last slide when it said, if you've never failed at anything, you've never tried anything new.
Yeah.
All of these people did not conform.
Right. Yeah.
They did something new that they knew was more important, whatever it would. And we all know what they did, especially Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And that was a very powerful last slide. I love that last slide.
Yeah.
That was strong. Well, thank you, Dick. That was very well done. Very, very, very inspirational.
The other thing that they all had in common typically were very piss poor teachers and or mentors.
Yeah, you're right.
I can't tell you about that. That was very obvious.
Yeah.
Einstein, age 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Anyway, okay, good. So I had a couple of things because we've got to run short here. I got something in the mail yesterday. Now, I'll hold this up. It's from Loma Linda Hospital, which you're all familiar with, and it says, please call us to make an appointment, Dick.
You have one, don't you?
I have an appointment.
Yeah. In fact, I have a note to ask you what the date is so I can get it on my calendar. You told me
26th, 2 o'clock. So, yeah, but here it is, please make an appointment. I guess this is erring in at least the right way, in one way, as opposed to forgetting you even have one.
I'll add on to something and get finished.
Go ahead. I have another bit.
It's different than that, but it's kind of along the lines you're talking. So you do yours and I'll show one.
I'm done with mine. Go ahead, Dick.
Okay. And I know you're a big fan of HootSuite.
Yes.
And I have their free thing. I don't use it much. I had it and I found I wasn't using it much, so I stopped paying for it. So I get this email yesterday, the day before yesterday. It says, you have been selected for a 60-day free trial for HootSuite Premium, and you're going to get the following, blah, 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 all this stuff. I say, hey, maybe they're going to teach me, about social networking and how to use it effectively and all that. So I said, hey, I'll try it, 60 days. The next day, I'm checking my bank account online. I'm billed by HootSuite. And I got nothing from HootSuite different. I got the same old stuff I used to get that I didn't use, and I got no tutorials, nothing. So, there's no number to call, so I live chat a guy. And I informed him that I was supposed to be getting this for 60 days for free. And I said, yeah. He said, well, you used your one free thing. We're going to start billing you now. I said, okay, I'm going to.
Free day? One free day?
There's one free segment you get free. I guess I didn't read the real small flight print, but so I said, well, I'm canceling. Yep. I'm canceling. I'm canceling my thing. So he told me what to do, and to their credit, he debited my $14 back. He said, I'm sorry. And so they get a certain, as you're canceling, why are you canceling? So I wrote in the whole thing, and it says, and the survey says, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend HootSuite? to someone. I put 0. I get an email this morning from HootSuite saying I have been selected for a 60-day free trial.
Wow.
You ought to take it.
Yeah, I can't afford it. I mean, it's just,
You can't afford the free trial?
Yeah, that's right. It goes along with what you're saying. You got an appointment, they send you a thing. Here's a guy, they obviously don't read the surveys. They don't read anything because 0, I put 0 as far as recommending another person to it. And I get an email saying your time is running out on your free trial opportunity. Oh, God.
So I ran out of one of my set of tools, and so I ordered them, $600, not cheap, and it's been almost a month before I got them.
Mm-hmm.
No heads up, no anything. I finally started saying, hey, it's been over 3 weeks. What's the story? Well, apparently their CNC machine had been broken down and is now repaired. So they went ahead and processed, I told them that we have to update my credit card too. And so they said, oh, so we're going to stop the order. If you don't have a good credit card, we'll stop the order right now. I said, well, I'll tell whoever it is, because they sent me a chip out, the cheap version of cards. When it came to their pay, I meant they were right on top of that.
Yeah.
So they sent me my order yesterday. It's the wrong color, and it doesn't have a chamfered edge, which is one of the particular features of this tool. So I wrote them an email because I can't talk to her. I can't talk to them. And I said, I got a problem. Wrong color. I can live with the wrong color, but the chamfered edge is, the touch labor on the chamfered edge is gone. There's nothing there. And we need to have that. She writes back, well, you on the last go-around said you wanted to save money and leave that chamfered edge off because it was going to cost much, much more. I wrote back and I said, I don't remember having that conversation, but what is the cost of the much, much more quote for this tool in black? What is that? And she goes, well, I'll get it to you when I can. And I just wanted to write back, and I did. And this is one of those things, I just wrote a single sentence. You have the worst customer service I've ever experienced, period. And I didn't send it. It's one of those things like you talked about.
Yeah.
But now I am forced to find some touch labor out here that's going to make this tool usable again. And I was just so disappointed. And you pay top dollar for this, and they get beat up, and it's all my fault.
Well, Peter, you have the specs of what you want them to build it as, right?
Yeah.
I would contact Legal Shield and have the lawyer write them a letter.
Oh, real? I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Huh.
Good point. Excellent point.
Yeah, and continue to piss them off even more.
Well, I mean, they're not giving you what you want.
No, you're right, and they're hostile with me.
Right.
And even the owner of the company said, because I told him I was afraid of reprisals from this woman, and he goes, you have good reason to feel that way, because that's the way she is. So she just loves to screw with me and screw up my order. And I guess at this point, I'm just going to have to find another source. So if any of your listeners know a source of a plastics house that'll cut sheets of plastic with a router, a CNC router, let me know.
You remind me of a quote I used the other day in one of my lessons. Maya Angelou was an African American woman poet, who died recently for the last 2 or 3 years. And I love this quote that she had, and I used it in my class the other day. When people show you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing last night. It bugged me all night long, and I said, you know what the good thing here is? I know exactly what I'm dealing with. And I feel bad. I felt bad for them, and then I don't because I know who they are now.
That's right.
I know who they are.
And they've proven it time and time again.
And I will operate accordingly.
Can I ask you a question, Peter?
Yeah,
I know you got the biggest heart in the world, and you're the most giving person I know. Is why would you feel bad for them?
Thank you. Good question.
Because we are, the three of us, like to help and improve people's businesses. And, I felt bad for the business because the customer service is so rotten. And I feel bad for the owner because he's too stupid to solve that problem for himself. But I feel bad for them for that. Because you could be so much better. It could be so much different. And it's not. And I feel bad for that. And I don't know, Dick. I know they're going to get what they get, but I know what the problem is. I know we could fix that problem in 20 minutes. And they
No,
would
you
have.
can't. You haven't fixed it in 2 years.
No, you. If we had the ability, if we had the ear of the owner, I would first fire this woman. That would take a minute, right?
I agree.
But 19 other minutes finding who else could do her job and teach them customer service.
But, I have such a low tolerance to the owners like that have the problem, recognize the problem, and and do anything about it. So you can't fix that in 15 minutes until the owner says, "Hey, I have a problem."
Well, that was my point.
If you're a drug addict, you got to say, "I have a problem."
Right, but that was my point. I said if I had the owner's ear and his will, it was kind of like the first thing we did with the computer repair store was fire the daughter. You know, that would be the first thing I would do. I'd fire her. Yeah. And I don't know how many other people they're going through and having. It's not my problem.
No, it's not.
I know I see one thing, the prices just keep going up and up and up, and I think it's because they're losing customers, you know?
Yeah.
And I know why. But anyway, I'm going to try to find another place. I have to think that out. But anyway, there you go, guys. Anything else?
No.
We got it.
We shouldn't end on a down note. Come on. Frank. Frank, give me an update.
Oh, okay. You got time? I can do that.
Yeah, we got about 15 minutes. Tops.
God, if I take that long, shoot me. I'll
get out the cyanide pill.
Yes. The client I'm working with is a MultiLevel Marketing. They're in the consumer business, B2C. So they sell to consumers. And network marketing, when they try to find business, they call them business builders, I think is what the term they use in this company. Everybody has a hard time. So I did some research and listen to these two statistics. 95 out of every 100 people we meet or that we know want something more in their life. Only 5% are content to where they are. Okay, so I took that. That's so right. And so multi-level marketing, as Dick knows, offers you a chance to get more in your life, financial, whatever. But here's the second statistic. 95 out of every 100 people you know or that you will meet that you haven't met yet want nothing to do with selling. Want nothing. You hear that? If you tell them that this requires selling, 9,500 people say, "Well, I'm not interested." That's how bad the thing is. Yeah. So I took that statistic and I multiplied 95% to 95%, about close to 90%. So I said, 9 out of every 10 people that you know, and I use the circle of family, friends, and acquaintances is what I said. They want something more in your life, which your multi-level marketing business can do for them, but they want nothing to do with that 4-letter word called sale or sell. Sell in this case, sell. I said, and their product is so good, health and wellness product, that if they will just share with people, let them try it. If they like it, they will buy it. If they don't, they won't walk away. I said, your product does the selling for you. You never have to sell. And I said, I have hit the golden goose here. This is it. You wouldn't believe the response I get from 2 of the people on the lesson. They were very, very upset with me because they thought that was deceiving. I says, what? He says, well, you're lying to them. I says, why do you say that? They said, you sell. I says, no, you don't. I says, we share. They try it. If they like it, they buy it. If they don't, they won't. Oh, but when they buy it, it's called a sale. I said, okay. Well, therefore I sold. I said, and we went back and forth on the hard definition of that term that it really poisoned the lesson for a lot of the people. Except I had a coaching call this morning, message before this call, and we talked about it because this is the last lesson I did, and we talked about it. And she says, I totally agree with you. I had 3 people who turned me down because they said, I don't want to get into sales. She says, but you're right. We don't sell. We share. And if they like it, they buy it. If they don't, they won't. We apply no sales pressure at all. I said, thank you. So anyway, so the lesson is, if your product is so good that it sells itself and you're trying to build a team, stop selling, start sharing. And that's my lesson that I did about 10 days ago.
Pretty cool.
Well, Frank, that's very true. I never, if I'm talking to an associate, I'd never, a potential associate rather, talk about selling. Part of the legal,
Really?
Yeah. Part of Legal Shield training is that your job is to bring awareness that Legal Shield's available, and that's it. I met with the small business owner the other day and went over the program. I said, here's what it is, the whole thing. I said, I won't be calling you a million times. We'll set a date to call you back. If you're interested, great. If not, maybe not now, maybe later type of thing. But, you never mentioned, I never mentioned selling at all. I never sell,
And you and I built our careers in doing what?
Selling.
Right?
It was the biggest adjustment I had to make to get into network marketing was shut up and don't sell.
Yeah.
Close aware, make people.
Well, now listen to this other statistic that I came up with because my research. 90% of all the MLM companies out there are looking for the 5% that want to sell.
Yeah.
And
It's the other way. It should be the other way.
You know who's calling? Ding ding. They're a selling company.
Yeah.
I won't use the name because I don't want to use the name.
Yeah, I know.
But, right. They're door-to-door people.
Yeah.
The company I'm working with, the last thing is in fact, they recommend you don't do door-to-door. Your business is you educate business owners, right?
Hey,
You share your knowledge. You share your knowledge and say,
Yeah.
here it is. If you want to buy it, great. If not, thank you.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy last night at a mixer, and he says, what's Legal Shields? I gave him a quick pitch, and he started asking questions, and he answered. And I said, hey, it's an awareness thing. It's you have a small business, you have legal needs. Does this fit them? If it does, it's great. If it doesn't, you may call me up 2 months from now if you don't sell.
Right. Walk away. Love it.
Well, I want to know, Frank, if you buy 10 of these, I'll give you 10% discount.
Yeah.
How about this? What color do you want? Clear or clear?
Clear or clear? Yeah, clear or clear.
Yeah.
You want it to work or not work?
Yeah.
Which of the two do you want?
That's it. Anyway, so that's the lesson.
Okay. Great job, guys.
Yep.
Let's stop this podcast.